Hello, it's me. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning in. On this day 34 years ago, on December 21st, 1988, one of the most extraordinary airplanes ever built took to the skies for the first time. The Antonov AN-225 mriya, the largest airplane in the world by a long shot. This aircraft had a wingspan of 290 feet, a length of 275 feet, and a maximum takeoff weight of over 640 tons. It was powered by 8 Kuznetsov NK-82 engines, giving it a maximum speed of 550 miles per hour. Now, unfortunately, there was only one of these aircraft ever built, and although Ukraine had plans to build more, they never got past the prototype stage. Unfortunately, the one that was built was destroyed in the early stages of the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. In today's video, we'll take a closer look at this massive transport aircraft. We'll talk about its design, its capabilities, why only one was ever built, and what ultimately led to its destruction. Let's get into it. The story of the Antonov AN-225 is closely tied to another aircraft, the British Concorde. Back in the 1960s, several European countries came together to work on a supersonic passenger airliner. Their goal was to have it carry up to 100 passengers at twice the speed of sound. The result was the Concorde, which made its first flight on March 2, 1969. The Soviet Union wanted something similar and saw an opportunity to showcase their own technological advancements, so they began designing their own supersonic passenger jet, which they called the Tupolev Tu-144. But unlike the Concorde, the Tu-144 could carry 350 to 400 passengers. It made its first flight on February 5, 1969, just 1 month before the Concorde. But during testing, the Tu-144 suffered from serious technical issues. Then, on May 1969, a fire broke out on board during a static test of the engine. As a result, the program was cancelled and all work on the Tu-144 was stopped. However, while the passenger version was scrapped, the program did yield some valuable technology. One of those technologies was the cutting-edge materials used in the construction of the Tu-144. These new composites were strong yet lightweight, which would prove invaluable in the construction of the aircraft that would eventually become the Antonov AN-225 by the mid-1970s. The West was starting to show interest in the idea of an oversized transport aircraft. At the time, the largest cargo plane in operation was the Boeing 700, which had been in service since 1970, with a maximum takeoff weight of just under 390 tons. The 747 was able to carry large and bulky cargo-like construction equipment or even cars, but it was limited in how heavy the cargo could be. In 1974, Howard Hughes flew his Spruce Goose, the largest plane ever built up until that point. However, this was a one-off and never went into production. Seeing an opportunity to demonstrate their advanced technology, the Soviets decided to design their own extra-large transport aircraft. They knew that Western companies would never allow them to buy any of the composite materials that were being used in the now defunct Tu-144. So they went back to the drawing board and designed their own advanced composite materials. With these new materials, they built the largest flying wing ever constructed, which they dubbed the Antonov AN-225 mriya. The name mriya means dream in Ukrainian. What makes the AN-225 so impressive is the fact that it was largely built with materials and technology that already existed when it was constructed. There weren't any fancy new composites or exotic alloys. Instead, engineers used larger versions of existing technologies. For example, the wing was made of titanium, which was a metal that was widely used in the construction of aircraft at the time. What really set the AN-225 apart from other transport aircraft was its size. Its cargo bay was 180 feet long and 21 feet wide, giving it a total volume of 1.5 million cubic feet. The cargo door was also quite large, measuring 18 feet tall and 21 feet wide. The first flight of the AN-225 was on December 21, 1988. By this point, the Cold War had already begun and the United States had slapped numerous trade embargoes on the Soviet Union. One of those embargoes banned the sale of high-performance computer chips. Without these computer chips, the Soviets were unable to fully automate the aircraft. As a result, the AN-225 had 3 pilots in the cockpit along with 2 flight engineers to help maneuver the aircraft. Despite this setback, the AN-225 was a success. In 1989, the plane set multiple world records. It managed to lift a single item weighing 559,000 pounds, the heaviest payload ever lifted by an airplane. It also managed to lift a total of 18 separate items totaling 1.1 million pounds, the most ever carried by an airplane. In 1991, the Soviet Union fell and Ukraine became its own independent country. Along with independence came control of several Soviet projects, including the Antonov AN-225. In the early 1990s, Ukraine partnered with the French company Astrium to develop a launch vehicle called the Zenit. It would use the upper stage of the N-25 as its first stage. In order to make room for the rocket, a second cargo door was added to the aircraft. In 1998, A second AN-225 was ordered, but it never moved beyond the prototype stage. The reason why there was never any serious effort to build additional AN-225s was because there simply wasn't any need. No company or country needed an aircraft that could carry 1.1 million pounds. In fact, to this day, no company or country needs an aircraft like the AN-25. That's why there's only one throughout its career. The AN-25 served as a transport for oversized agricultural equipment, power station transformers and rockets. It was able to land at airports that were too small for it, thanks to its large wing which provided lots of lift. Then in 2001, the AN-225 was modernized. The new version was given the designation AN-225-2001. Its maximum takeoff weight was increased to 640 tons, and its maximum payload was increased to 150 tons. The new version also boasted improved range and fuel efficiency. In addition, 6 additional wing-mounted pylons were added to the AN-225. These would allow the aircraft to carry smaller cargo that could unfit inside the main cargo bay. Then in 2009, the AN-225 set another world record. On July, it managed to fly 8,200 miles without refueling. That distance is equivalent to flying from New York to Cairo, Egypt and back to New York. Throughout its career, the AN-225 visited many different countries. It became a popular attraction at airshows and was considered a symbol of Ukrainian engineering excellence. Then in 2014, the Russian aggression in Ukraine heated up. In response, Ukraine placed the AN-225 and its other aircraft in storage. However, in 2015, the AN-225 was brought back into service to help boost the economy. On February 24, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. 2 days later, the Antonov airport where the AN-225 was stored was bombed by Russian forces. The attack destroyed the AN-225 beyond repair. Today, the destroyed remains of the AN-225 serve as a warning to Russia and a reminder to the rest of the world of the destructive power of war. I think you'll agree with me when I say that it's a shame that such a magnificent machine was destroyed in the way that it was. But I do hope that one day another country will pick up where Ukraine left off and build additional AN-225s. Imagine the possibilities if we had a modern version of this aircraft with the latest automation and composite materials. I think you can pretty much load anything on it. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel out a lot. Also consider leaving a comment. I always appreciate hearing what you have to say. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's absolutely free and you can always change your mind later. And finally, if you'd like to support the channel even further, consider becoming a patron. You'll get access to a community where you can share your thoughts and ideas with me and the other patrons. You'll also get to request certain topics and even appear in the credits of my videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.